Hello, learner. Welcome to Mr. Quickest Teachers. Now, in this lesson, I'll be analyzing W.H. Auden's The Capital. It's one of the 15 poems in the GCSE or IGCSE anthology for your exams. Now, this poem is a complete analysis, and then it's part of the 15 poems which I've analyzed, and you can subscribe to the course that has the detailed analysis of all the 15 poems for only £5 a month. Or you can buy the entirety of the poem for £45 for a year. Now, additionally, I also provide tuition as well. So if you're preparing for the IGCSE or GCSE if you're in the UK, and you need help with writing essays, grade 8, grade 9, or A or A star quality essays, you can join the group sessions or one-on-one session, and then I can teach you how to do that. Now, additionally, I also provide tuition for the other components as well: the prose, the drama. This is the poetry, and then the unseen. If you're doing the unseen paper. Now, if you're signing up for our tuition lesson, the first lesson is a free lesson. So just like a trial lesson, you try it, and then if you like it, you can stick and stay. If you don't, you can look at other options. Now, if you want to reach me directly, you can send me an email at mrq@mrquickestteachers.com, and then I can see how I can help you achieve your goals. Now, let's begin by speaking about the poet, W.H. Auden. It's actually Winston Hugh Auden. He was born on the 21st of February 1907, and he died on the 29th of September 1973. He was an English poet, playwright, critic, librettist. He exerted a major influence on poetry in the 20th century. In fact, one of the other poems I have an analysis of is Funeral Blues, exceptional poem, which is actually recited in one of the the movies. Auden won the Pulitzer Prize in 1948 for The Age of Anxiety. Much of his poetry is concerned with moral issues and evidences a strong political, social, and psychological context. Auden's poetry is considered versatile and inventive, ranging from firstly epigrammatic to book-length verse and incorporating a vast range of scientific knowledge. Now, one of the things I like about this poem is how Auden personifies the capital. The title of the poem is The Capital, and he personifies it and sort of presents it as a place of debauchery and a place that soils the morals of those in the rural areas, while presenting those in the urban areas as people who assume that they've achieved everything, but in fact they've not. So that's essentially the summary of the poem. Now, this is how the poem appears in your anthology. It's 20 lines in total. Each of the stanzas is a quatrain stanza or 4-line stanza. I'll speak about the form and structure of the poem, which is important and something you have to speak about if you're looking to get an A or an A star. You have to be able to speak about the form and the structure of the poem, and I teach my students how to do that, or how to present such information if they are asked. Let me begin by reading the poem, The Capital by W.H. Auden. Quarter of pleasures where the rich are always waiting expensively for miracles to happen. Oh, little restaurant where the lovers eat each other. Cafe where exiles have established a malicious village. You, with your charm and your apparatus, have abolished the strictness of winter and spring's compulsion. Far from your light, the outraged punitive father, the dullness of mere obedience here is apparent. Yet, with orchestras and glances, oh, you betray us to believe in our infinite powers, and the innocent, unobservant offender falls in a moment, victim to his heart's invincible fury. In unlighted streets, you hide away the appalling. Factories where lives are made for a temporary use, like collars or chains, rooms where the lonely are battered slowly like pebbles into fortuitous shapes. But the sky you illuminate. Your glow is visible far into the dark countryside, the enormous, the frozen, where eating are the forbidden like a wicked uncle, night after night to the farmer's children you beckon. So that is a reading of the poem. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the way the poem opens. Quarter of pleasures where the rich are always waiting. So it presents the area as, when they say quarter of pleasure, it presents the place as exclusive. So, and as a place that allows those there to indulge themselves in multiple things that gives them satisfaction and enjoyment. That's quarter of pleasure. It's a small area, but then you can do whatever you want to do and enjoy, and gain satisfaction. Then what the rich are always waiting reveals that only wealthy people can be there. It is not for everyone. Only the wealthy can be there, and they can be there at all times of the day, always waiting. Waiting expensively for miracles to happen. So we see here that it reveals that they spend a lot of money. Expensively means they spend a lot of money, right? With the expectation that they will witness something extraordinary, something beyond the ordinary. Now we also see the use of repetition as well, the repetition of the word waiting, which emphasizes, the extreme patience of the assembled rich. So think about the debauchery and, the kind of loose life, sex-crazed existence that they live there. They wait expensively for miracles to happen, and then they are patient. Oh is an exclamation that reveals the speaker's horror. While little restaurants where the lovers eat each other is a striking characterization that reveals the smallness, of the place and presents it as a dog-eat-dog setting. So it's a place that is inherently violent, dog-eat-dog. And these are lovers. Lovers are supposed to be people who care for each other, but that's not what is presented here. We see that these people use each other deceitfully, like a predator-prey kind of relationship. So they use each other for their satisfaction, not for love, but just they use people, they look at people essentially as tools or things that can be used to satisfy themselves. Cafe, where the exiles have established a malicious village, suggests that the place caters mainly for those who have either voluntarily or involuntarily been expelled from where they are from. And they have created a district where people are harmed. So these people have run from, wherever they were from previously. And now they've come to this capital. And now they've created in this capital a place where they can use people deceitfully. It's a malicious village. It's a place where people do vile and wicked things to their fellow human beings. Now, in stanza 2, we see the use of repetition and personification. Remember, in the introductory bits of the poem, I talked about how the capital is personified, and this is where we begin to see that. Auden begins to present that. You with your charm and your apparatus have abolished. You there is a reference to the capital. So you see the repetition and use of the second person, pronoun you or your, which reveals that this speaker is speaking directly to the capital. Right? And it's accusing it of using its attractiveness, charm, attractiveness, and the systems that it has created to stop the strictness of winter and spring's compulsion. That essentially is like nature. You used your charm to stop nature from, taking its course. Now, what is the strictness of winter and spring's compulsion? It is an allusion to the control that both seasons force on people. Winter forces certain actions on people. Spring forces certain actions on people. Winter forces people to stay indoors. In the earlier periods, because it's very, very frigid. While in spring tells people that you have to prepare to farm. But the technology and the capital has made it possible for people to sidestep that. So now they are more free to live the way that they want to live. They are no longer compelled to live within the confines of nature and then the laws of nature. Then he continues, far from your light, they are trade punitive farther. So that's a direct comment to the capital that tells that moving there, that if you move to the capital, You move away from your parents, your conservative, traditional, disciplinarian father. The father there is just a metaphor for any form of authority, an authoritative figure. You move away from there, and so you can do as you please. So when people move to this capital, they can do as they please. They are no longer restricted. They can do whatever they want to do. Continues, the dullness of mere obedience here is apparent. Now, this tells you that when somebody first moves to the city, when you look at them, you see that they are not city folks. Their appearance sort of gives them away. So it implies that those who continue to live traditional and conservative lifestyle because of parental direction stand out as misfits. So essentially, they do not blend into city life because they look backward and unexcited. So you're still, wearing, the city folks dress, you're still behaving like city folks, you're still thinking like them. It makes you look dull. And he describes it as mere obedience. So if you're living that kind of life, then you're not living you're not excited. You're not living an excited life. Now, in the third stanza, continues and says, yet with orchestras and glances reveals that concerts and people looking at them are two tools that are used by the personified capital. So the personified capital, in order to deceive people, uses orchestras and glances. So people looking at you and say, wow, you're looking, fabulous. That's one of the ways I know it tunes their mind, it messes with their mind. Then it appears here that it is one of the people who live in the city that speaks next. He says, oh, you betray us. So again, oh is an exclamation that shows, this sense of disappointment. But you again is another reference to the city. Now, betrayal shows that this speaker is not only speaking about herself or himself or theirself. They are talking about others. And it has like this tone of pain that suggests that the speaker thinks that it has sold every city dweller off. So the capital is essentially selling them off. You betray us, you sold us off. When we talk about betrayal, one of the most potent examples is how Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus. And that is the language, the tone that this speaker uses here to say, you capital, you betrayed us. And what did they betray them to? To believe in our infinite powers. So these people in the capital, in the urban area, they think of themselves as being omnipotent. They have like this sense of omnipotence and they can do whatever they please. That is like the way their minds have been messed up by the capital. Remember, the capital is personified. So it has messed up their minds and taught them that you can do whatever you want to do. You are essentially God unto yourself. Then he says, and the innocent, unobservant offender falls in a moment. Now, this is a striking paradoxical description of the city dwellers. Now, paradox is a presentation of contradictory ideas. It's quite contradictory. Now, these city dwellers who are naive and simple-minded about the artificiality of what they see in the capital, that's what they see. When you're innocent, you are naive. Unobservant also shows that you're not looking at things, to observe the way that it works. You don't pay complete and full attention. So they do not pay close attention and are themselves seeking for ways to use others. So you see, innocent offender. So when you're in the city, there's this sense that, you are innocent, but then you can also be an offender. You can also be somebody who is destroying another person's life, possibly to make your life more exciting. But what happens to them? Falls in a moment. It shows you how suddenly their fall occurs. So nobody in the capital is innocent. Yes, they are innocent. They are unobservant because they are being used, but they are also offenders. So you see, there's this blend of adjectives that presents them as people that are not entirely innocent of what befalls them eventually. Because we're told that victim to his heart's invisible furies reveals that they fall because of their devious wishes. Remember, we talked about that in the third line of the first stanza where it says, where lovers eat each other. So they have like devious wishes to manipulate and use others. And sometimes they themselves are manipulated and used. So, like, the dog eat dog word that we talked about, it can happen to them, or they can also, present it to others. So it's like something that shifts at certain times. In unlighted streets, you hide away the appalling. That's stanza 4. So it provides vivid visual imagery of intense darkness. I mean, the darkness that can almost be felt or held. So on lighted street, you hide away the appalling. So it shows that this personified capital takes portions of the city or aspects of the city that is not very good, that is appalling, that is bad, and then it hides it. And then it presents a glossy exterior. So it hides the horrible aspects of city life in darkness and creates this false impression that all is perfect. And so people troop in. They troop into the city. They troop into the city. Why? Because the bad things of the city, like drug abuse, prostitution, hunger, death, all of that is hidden somewhere in the darkness. But the glossiness, cars, beauty, fashion, movies is what is presented. And so when people go there, they are deceived by this, facade that's been presented by the city, because the appalling aspects of this capital has been hidden somewhere. So observe that this capital is presented as a living thing that deliberately presents itself in such a way that it would, set people astray. Factories where lives are made for temporary use suggest that people live unnatural lives in the capital, and their lives are supposed to be temporary. So there's no longevity. So there are aspects when they come and then they shine, almost like, like the comets. They shine, then they are gone. And their lives are essentially like lives that are created in the factory. It has no long-term use to it. Now, in the next line, the poet uses simile. The fourth stanza, the third line. It says, like collars or chairs. So it's a simile that likens lives. I mean, think about it. Lives essentially is the human life. Something that is very potent and one, you go through it only once. He likens it to collars that are easily detachable. So you see, people are just used as things that can be used and discarded. They are detachable and discarded without care. And then chairs also shows that they're artificial. Again, chairs is something that you sit on, you use it. And then when you stand up and you go, you no longer think of it. You've used it for the function you want to use it when you're gone. And that is what people's lives in the capital has been reduced to. Collars is the detachable, disposable collars once worn with shirts. Then he continues and says, rooms where the lonely are battered. Now, the city is presented as glossy, but then when you go into the rooms, what is happening inside of people's houses, you realize that they are lonely. Lonely means that they have no company or friends. While battered shows that they are physically abused. So you see, forget about the glossy exterior. When you go into the houses, people's lives are terrible. They are alone. Slowly like pebbles into fortuitous shapes. It's a simile that likens people to hard pebbles. They are hard pebbles that over time fit perfectly into a dysfunctional capital. So little by little, they are beaten and beaten and beaten and beaten and beaten until they fit into the dysfunction of the capital. Now, in the fifth stanza of the poem, we see a blend of the use of repetition and personification. It says, "By the sky you illumine, your glow is visible far." So that personifies the capital. So this point about the personification that we saw in the second stanza, you with your charm and your apparatus, that idea is continued. So it personifies the capital and highlights the many lighted high-rise buildings that are deliberately turned on. So these high-rise buildings are turned on and they can be seen from great distances. Your glow is visible far into the dark countryside. So Into the Dark Countryside reveals that the rural areas have no light, possibly, or maybe have very little light. And it may also be an allusion to its backwardness. So the impression that they're trying to give is like if you're living in the capital, you're bright, you are enlightened. Those who are living in the country folks are backward and lack modernity. Now observe that it is the capital that presents itself like that. It's almost like it's a trap. And it presents its best aspects, the best portions of for the photograph to lure people. And observe how the countryside is described. It is told that we are told that it is dark, which I just spoke about the lack of light. Then we also told that it is enormous. It shows that the rural area has a large expanse of land. What does that mean? It means that there's an unending amount of people that can be lured into the city. It is enormous. It is large. And it is also frozen. Shows that it is frigid. And very restrictive. Frozen means that it is frigid and restrictive. You see, we see that idea in line 6. When it says the strictness of winter and spring compulsion is something that has been abolished from line 5 to line 6. You see that point. So we see here that the frigidity that has been overcome with technology in the capital is still having sway, in the rural setting, where hinting at the forbidden like a wicked uncle. So it's a simile that likens the personified capital to a wicked uncle. So somebody who is relational or has a relationship. Now, the capital does not directly lead the young relation to engage in taboo actions. It doesn't give you a cigarette and say smoke it. No, that's not what it does. But it does it indirectly by smoking and saying, oh, this is really nice. And then it makes you to engage in it because it's told you how enjoyable it is. That's how the capital sort of destroys the morals of people, not directly. It does it subtly, and does it, by just like by inference. It doesn't say come and engage in drugs. It tells you that when you're engaging in drugs, it shows that you're enlightened, it shows that you're exciting, things like that. And so you do that. That essentially is what this personification presents. Then we again see the use of repetition. The speaker twice repeats night. So the speaker twice repeats night and night after night to emphasize the personified capital's relentlessness. It doesn't relent. Night after night, night after night. It is ceaseless. Every day of every month of every year, it is ceaseless. It is relentless as it invites people to come. While to the farmer's children you beckon reveals that it wants to lure rural youth, as a rural youth, to itself to corrupt their morals. That essentially is the hope and the plan. It is ceaseless in its actions to lure the farmer's children, those who are innocent, and bring them into the city to destroy their morality or their moral compass or their moral lives. That essentially is the analysis of the poem. It's quite exciting. And in terms of the themes of this poem, we see debauchery and unrestrained liberality of city life. That essentially is what the poem is about. That debauchery, engaging in sex, drinking, drugs. Another key theme is the excesses of urban areas versus the tradition of the rural areas. And we also see the dog-eat-dog and predator-prey nature of cities and the hidden negatives of city life. And then the unceasing temptation of urban living. Now, which other theme do you see? You can write it in the comments field there. Now, in terms of the tone of the poem, it's very critical of the capital. It's also accusatory and it's also rebuking. So the speaker is not happy with what the capital is doing, the way it is, messing up people's lives. Now, the poem is recounted mostly in the second person point of view, and you see that in the repetition of you and your. It repeats it multiple times in reference to the personified capital. And we also see the use of the plural first person when it says you betray us to believe in ourselves. So at that point, it appears that it is somebody, in the city that is speaking directly to the personified capital and telling it the effect that it's had on their life. So they're chastising the capital for what it has done to him and other, city dwellers. That is the point of view of the poem. Now, in terms of the form and the structure, which I alluded to in the opening of the analysis, which is vitally important, you have to write a paragraph on the form and the structure of the poem if you're looking to get either a grade 8 or grade 9 or an A or an A star. Now, the poem is a free verse poem. That means that it does not have a rhyme scheme. And it does that because it wants to mimic the lack of rhythm in the city. So city life does not have a rhythm. It is all over the place. It's chaotic. Now, the poem also has 20 lines in total, broken into 5 quatrain or 4-line stanzas, which makes the poem seem crowded. If you look at the page, it looks very crowded, like the high-rise building that we see in the final stanza or in the first stanza, where it says, "But the star you illumine, your glow is visible." So it's like that sense, Boxes, which is also another poem as well, has like that, carries this kind of sense as well. So it's crowded like a high-rise building in the city that tempts rural folks to come. Now, finally, the poet also employs enjambment as well. So that we see in the flow of words from one line to the next without pause. So, for example, in the second stanza, you see, "You with your charm and your apparatus have abolished," and then it flows into the second line of the stanza, "the sickness of winter and spring's compulsion." So you see that flow there. So it shows us the fluidity and the speaker's earnestness to reveal the capital's excesses and the wicked, bad kind of life that people live in the capital. So here you have it. W.H. Auden's The Capital has been made simple. Now, like I said, this poem is part of a course where I've analyzed all 15 poems in the IGC CSE anthology. So you can subscribe to it for only £5 a month, or you can buy it for a year for £45. That means you save, £15 in subscription. Now, additionally, if you need tuition, to help you with writing essays, you understand the poem, but you're not able to write essays. Whenever you write essays, the teacher always says, "Oh, you're not presenting the information very well. You're doing this, you're doing that." You can sign up to our group session or our one-on-one session at www.mrquickesteaches.com. Like I said, the first lesson is a free lesson. So you join the lesson, you just see the way the lesson unfolds. If it's something that will work for you, then you can stick and stay. If not, you look for other options. So that's all for me today, Mr. Quickest. Thank you for joining the lesson. Until next time, bye-bye.